What's going on, Buffs Nation? We got to dive into last week's victory over Colorado State and take a look at Baylor, man. This game is going to be, of course, Colorado's first game in the Big 12 while making its valiant return. The question is, are the Buffs ready to try to take over this conference? Baylor is going to be a little bit of a challenge coming into town, but I think the Buffs got a good chance. We've got TJ here from College Football Addiction joining us once again. TJ, what's going on?
Man, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this game this weekend. See if the Buffs can build on last week.
Right. You know, last week, the game actually played out about like me and you talked about. We saw some establishment in the run game. We saw the defense show up early. So let's talk about that real quick. How'd you feel about that victory on Colorado State? What did you see in that game that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, I thought they played a lot better. Now, I do think you have to preface things and say, like, Colorado State not necessarily as good as probably most of the rest of the schedule, right? Like, you're going to play a lot better teams than Colorado State. But you need to go out and beat the teams that you're a lot better than and beat them handily and beat them where the game is never in question or never in doubt. And so, I'm certainly not saying that Colorado did anything wrong. They played a team that's not very good, and they beat them like you're supposed to beat a team that's not very good. Remember, it was just last year that you needed a last-second field goal to beat this team, right? Like, you struggled in a high-scoring game where your defense didn't play very well against the same quarterback, a lot of the same guys that Colorado State had. You struggled to put them away last year, and you were up big. They came back. All those things, right? You had players getting injured, obviously no Travis. And so they went out and they dominated the way that they needed to. Now, the good from that is that your offensive line looked better. Your defense looked a lot better. And we talked about the defenses looked a lot better in second halves of games. The bad or the caution from that is it gets tougher from here, right? Just beating Colorado State, I mean, Coach Prime knows this. That's not enough to satisfy people, right? Like, that's the expectation, is to beat teams like that. And now it's time to build on that. And you get, we'll talk about them later, but you get an opponent that I think you absolutely can. Like, you're not playing the best team in the Big 12, or you're not playing Georgia or Ohio State or anything next week. You're playing an opponent that you probably can continue to build off of. And so I think timing sets up well for the Buffs. But overall, impressed with the win for sure.
Yeah, that's the best part is they closed out like they're supposed to. As you said, beating teams that you're supposed to beat is probably the most important thing. And we started to see a little bit of run game getting established, right? Michael Welch went out there, got himself a nice amount of yards. I was like, okay, we got Welch with 9 carries at 65. Pretty good. And that's one thing that I know this team needs to figure out. Isaiah Gustav got some burn as well, 6 carries, but the only thing that bothered me, if anything, in this game is that they only ran the ball 19 times. And Baylor's going to be prepared for that, right? Dave Aranda is a really good coach. He's infamous for his defenses, especially when he was defensive coordinator at LSU. He's come to Baylor, and it's been an up and down road for him since he's been there. So let's preview them. But first, a word from our sponsor. So do you struggle getting food on the table when you have kids that are into sports like I do? Or are you looking for options that are healthy and, good for your wellness goals? Well, you got to check out Factor, because that's what I had to do. My kids, I'm trying to raise some world-class athletes, and the most important thing is the fuel that they put into their system. Factor gets us taken care of. One thing I like about Factor is they take the stress out of meal planning and set you up for success by skipping the grocery store runs, the prep work, and the cooking fatigue. Instead, I get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, and more. Factor hooks it up. My kids have games all the time. We've got practices, and because we're shuffling so much, we just don't have the time to cook. So the best part is that because I have fitness goals, Factor takes care of me too. I get these chef-prepared meals on the table in 2 minutes with Factor's ready-to-eat meals. So you can get back to soaking up the sun of the summer, enjoying this fall, or racing back and forth with the kids. So you got to check them out. Factor is hooking you up. You can head over to factor75.com or click on the link below and use the code PRIMETIME50. Get 50% off your first Factor box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Check it out. That code is primetime50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Factor is there for you, providing you with quality meals and food. Check them out. Factor75.com using our promo code PRIMETIME50, getting 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. So we got TJ here from College Football Addiction. We're going to dive into this Baylor team. TJ, I've gone through and looked at it, man. This has been the year that we anticipate that, unfortunately, Dave Aranda may get himself fired. He's replaced his offensive coordinator, his defensive coordinator. They lost that game at Utah, and 23-12, and which is still weird that it's technically not conference play, right? Like I know that it's still the quote unquote non-conference schedule. So they actually played 10 Big 12 opponents this year, while everybody else only plays 9, which is, and technically only 9 of them being conference games. They got the win against Air Force to get themselves settled out. What do you think that Colorado needs to do in order to win this game against Baylor?
I think pound for pound, Colorado is the better team. And, there's a lot of talent in the Big 12, and people might say that, like, other teams on Colorado's schedule, you're not quite sure, if they have a talent advantage across the board. Now, certainly at the top, Colorado has the best 2 players on the field every time they step on the field. But Colorado has an advantage in this game. And Baylor is a team, kind of like we talked about earlier, not quite as bad as Colorado State. Like, it's not going to be that easy, but they're a team that you're better than, and you need to go out and play better than them. And so for me, for Colorado, it's just taking care of the little things. It's blocking, it's tackling, it's giving Sheduer enough time, which I've been very impressed with the defense. So really it comes down to offensive line to me. If they give Sheduer time, I don't see how Baylor can stop them. I think that if Sheduer has time, the wide receiver room, we've talked about how great they are compared to not only the conference but the rest of the country. If you give him time, I think you'll light them up this week. And I think playing at home at Folsom Field, a night game on Fox, like everybody tuned in, this is going to be the story of the game to me is, can the offensive line give Sheduer time and do the fundamental things, right? No turnovers, or limit turnovers, limit mistakes, no stupid personal foul penalties after plays are done, just no mental lapses. And if you do that, if you can block and, no mental lapse, you're probably going to win going away. Like, I know the spread's only 2. Right. That's because, in my opinion, I don't think Colorado has proven yet that they're worthy of big spreads or blowing teams out. They need to go out and prove it. Last week was a step in the right direction. This week, you take care of Sheduer, you take care of the ball, you'll probably win going away and have a lot more optimism about the later parts of the schedule too.
Yeah, and I know with Baylor, they're running basically a quote-unquote 2-quarterback system out there with, DeQuan Finn and Sawyer Robertson. Sawyer Robertson played in the Air Force game, and DeQuan Finn played in the first 2 games, especially against Utah. And so, he struggled against Utah in that game because Utah's defense is very swarming. He played 9 for 21, but he did well, I guess, the next week against Tarleton State. And then they gave Sawyer Robertson the opportunity against Air Force, and he cooked 18 for 24, 248. So it looks like for Colorado, it's going to be preparing for 2 quarterbacks. And I think personally the defense will be prepared for that. I know Coach Prime talked in their presser earlier this week that it's going to be raining in the forecast. And so if there's going to be rain, to me, now this is my thoughts, TJ, tell me I'm crazy. If it's going to be raining, with 30% right now, but there's a chance of it storming, that run game is going to be critical along with the defense. I think that Baylor's defensive scheme's probably better, but I think Colorado has the better players. Am I crazy on that?
No, I don't think so. And I also like the intensity that Colorado has played with this year. Like, I think Colorado has played with really, really good intensity on defense, and especially in second halves, right? Baylor offensively seems to be a second half team. They scored a little 3 points in the end of the first half against Utah, but I mean, they were down 23-0 and then came back to make it 23-12. They're kind of a second half team, but I think that plays right into what Colorado wants to do. I think that defense for Colorado has been really, really good. If not for kind of a lucky interception, they probably hold North Dakota State scoreless. They held Nebraska down in the second half, and Nebraska didn't take their foot off the gas. They were trying to score, but they weren't able to. And then I thought they played really, really good against Colorado State, really for the whole game, but in the second half defensively. And so you'd like to see the defense continue to get off to fast starts, which they did last week. They didn't do in the first 2 games. But if they can get a lead, if Colorado gets a lead because Baylor starts extremely slow, and Colorado's offense usually starts pretty well. Colorado gets up by a couple of scores. I kind of expect that defense to feast, pin their ears back, go and get whoever it is back there at quarterback, and really have a nice day, have a nice chance to kind of win this thing going away.
No, I'm with you on that. That's the one thing I'm looking at here, and that's a very good point. Baylor didn't score. They scored 6 points in the first half against Air Force, and they got 17 in the third. So, yeah, it appears that they're all about the second half, and it takes time for to get them ramped up. And that's probably a product of having a two-quarterback system, which I definitely don't approve of. Personally, I don't think that it's a good idea to have a two-quarterback system. If you don't have consistency there, that's a problem, especially with DeQuan Finn playing since, he's a pre-COVID kid, right? He's been in college football. He was at Toledo before, 2019. So he's been around for a while. And he was able to kind of win the job. And I guess the Utah game is one where we're going to reevaluate things. Gave Sawyer Robertson an opportunity, and he played well against Air Force. Now the question is going to be who's going to be the starter in that game. So, all right, TJ, give us a prediction for this game. What's your score prediction for Colorado and Baylor?
Yeah, I think Colorado in a night game at home, Fox 8 p.m. I think that all kind of plays into their advantage too. I'm not very confident in Baylor, and I think that if both teams play well, Colorado wins this thing by 10-14. If you factor in turnovers, or if the offensive line just looks miserable, or if Baylor gets it going early, right, and can kind of do some nice things to put some pressure on Colorado, do they tense up? I mean, there are definitely paths for Baylor to win this. There are paths for it to be closer, but I don't know. I like something like, Baylor's defense is okay, so give me something like Colorado 27, Baylor 17, 27-17 Colorado.
Ooh, 27-17. Nice. Travis Hunter scoring a touchdown?
Dude, is the game on Saturday?
Probably
an interception and a touchdown, so I feel good.
Good point. Well, TJ, thanks for pulling up. You can check out TJ over there at College Football Addiction. Thanks for pulling up as usual. Talk some Colorado ball with us.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Bus fans, make sure you hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe. And check out one of our other videos with me and TJ. Right in here. You can see it right there in front of me, right in here in this spot. And, of course, above TJ's head, you can subscribe to the channel. All right. We'll talk soon.